There's not.
Okay, so it is preparing.
The content of this meeting is being sent to a third party.
Third? Oh dear.
Oh, geez, that sounds
Meeting is
serious.
now streaming live on Facebook. Holy crap.
All right, we are live.
Our first live.
Super exciting.
Hi, Facebook.
Hello.
Well, hello. So for those of you who don't know, I'm Casey, and that's Fallon, and we are Render the Darkness, and we are here with our guests, Ryan Jones and Mr. Dennis Estlock, and we are going to be letting them tell you guys about the cabin on 360.
Thank you for having us.
You're
Yes,
very welcome.
thank you.
Thank you, guys. So the first time I heard about that was when we talked to you guys. So I wanted to be surprised by whatever information you guys gave us today. So we made it a point to not look it up so that we would be just as new to the information as everybody else listening or watching.
That makes it difficult to ask us questions.
Oh no, we're creative. I got tons.
I thought this was an interview.
It is. It is. First question is, tell us a little bit about the cabin of 360.
That's a loaded question. That's it.
Great question.
Now,
Thank you.
I'm not an English teacher, but that wasn't in the form of a question, Alex.
I can do that better. Tell us a little bit about the cabin 360.
There we go. Yeah.
There you go.
That I can handle.
Just raise your voice at the end. That turns it into a question.
Yes.
Yes, right.
Really?
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 Tell us about the cabin.
You guys had no clue you were in for this mess, did you?
We did not, but I'm all for it. Let's go.
Me too. Let's go.
I mean, half of getting through life is just to keep it fun. So that's kind of our goal. I mean, so the cabin on 360, Ryan's grandfather actually bought the land in July of 1978, and it's 7.2 acres of battlefield from the battles of Bethesda Church. Now, between 79 and 80, he built this log cabin. It was to be a model home for log cabin sales. And when he bought the land, there was a house next door that we call the Brick Rancher. That's the build style. We don't know when it was built, though. It wasn't on the survey plat when Ryan's grandfather bought the land. They entered a new survey plat in May of 79, and it's footnoted just to show location and structure. But we do know that the battlefield, within a very close proximity of the log cabin, we can account for over 2,200 men that were either killed or captured, wounded, missing in action. So it saw a lot of turmoil on the land just during the Civil War. But if we look all the way back to 1630s, that's when the settlers were moving into the area and pushing the natives off the land. So what types of things took place then? Was it, old Western where you see the settlers move in and just shoot everything, or, we don't know if there were massacres there. So Ryan and I, several years ago, I founded Commonwealth Researches of the Paranormal with Ryan as my co-founder. And over the years, we've done a lot of investigations and a lot of fundraisers for a place called Henricus Historical Park. Now that's south of us, about 30 to 45 minutes, south of Richmond, Virginia. And it was the second successful settlement in the New World. But we know about 1630s, they started pushing up into the area that the cabin is at, which is in Hanover County, Mechanicsville. So we do know that initially the settlers and the natives got along fairly well. 1611, they move into that area. The Powhatan Indians kind of ran everything around this area. The Powhatan Nation was pretty much in charge. But in 1622, you had a uprising where the natives got pissed off. They were tired of being screwed over and so forth. So they massacred 359 settlers down around Henricus Park. So we don't know if any of that spread up towards where we're at. I can't find documentation to account for that, but it's a possibility. So, the cabin having been built to be a model home for log cabin sales has never been a private residence. The brick rancher, we don't know when it originated, so we don't know much of its history, and we only found a small portion. The portion that we did find, however, is rather tragic. And the family that lived there in 1979, specifically October 4th of 1979, was the Elliott family. Mom and dad, 17-year-old Randy Lynn Elliott and 12-year-old Melissa Carol Elliott. Between 7:30 a.m. when mom and dad left for work and 10:30 when Randy was seen carrying something out into the wooded area, he had raped and murdered his 12-year-old half-sister in the house.
Oh my God.
So it has not only all that history of what took place on the land, but it has a dark history inside the house as well. And the log cabin, all of the businesses that have been there have always suffered one reason or another to just fold and go away. We spoke with one young lady that had a custom bakery in the building, and even she had activity in the location. And she's got a bit of a tragic story as well, in that she had attempted suicide in the log cabin, but doesn't understand why. Her question to Ryan and I was, do you suppose what's here caused me to do that? Well, I don't know. We're not sure what they're capable of. So it's got a rather dark history all around us.
Oh, wow.
That is crazy.
I know that when Ryan and I talked a little bit, he said you guys have gotten or collected a lot of EVPs from the cabin. What is your strongest or your most easiest to make out EVP? Like, have you ever heard voices? Have you ever heard anybody saying anything?
Are you able to play the one from yesterday, Ryan? No, what day is it?
Oh,
Yeah, it was yesterday.
I mean, I probably can get it on my phone here.
I mean, I can probably play it right off my phone as soon as I find my phone. Where the hell is my phone?
Given the history,
Right.
I can definitely see how there would be a lot of activity there.
For
Well,
sure.
we've pulled some pretty crazy EVPs out of the property. Tuesdays, Ryan and a few of the other volunteers that help run events and everything there. Tuesdays, they go in and they kind of hang out and they help clean up the place and make sure everything's right, and investigate for a couple of hours. Have you got it ready to play, Ryan?
Yeah, ready to go.
Go
I'm
for
gonna
it.
turn make sure my phone's turned all the way up. Okay.
I think you have a mute issue, Ryan.
I mean, it's playing on my end, or am I muted?
No,
Oh,
let me see if because it didn't
I think
broadcast the audio at all.
that's weird.
Let me see if it'll broadcast off mine.
Yeah, it's not here. I can't hear it either.
Mhm.
I could hear what it was close to you, but when you got up to the speaker, I couldn't hear anymore.
All right, let me pull it away then.
I was gonna say when it first started.
Yeah. Now I can't hear it. That is weird.
Bizarre.
That's weird.
But yeah, we've got a ton of different EVPs. Like Dennis left a recorder downstairs in the basement. Like when we first started investigating. Remember that?
Oh,
And
yeah.
you got that hate.
Well, it wasn't just the hate. I had been down in the basement for probably 45 minutes and decided I was going to go smoke cigarettes. So I just left the voice recorder running. And there is what sounds like, like somebody took double hands and slammed the door shut inside the building. I'm standing on the front porch and didn't hear anything. But right after that, you hear this voice, sounds like it's right on top of the recorder. It's like, hey, hates.
Wow.
So when I reviewed, I'm like, what the hell did I miss? I'm thinking this would have been great. I would have, it would have been really cool to be in the basement when that happened, but I wasn't. I think one of the most profound ones that I've captured, other than that, we had a group of, like, we do a lot of fundraisers at the property, and that entails doing public investigations. So we get 30, 40 guests join us at the properties. And we split up into groups and go about our investigation. There's probably 6 or 8 guests with me in Melissa's bedroom where the actual murder took place. And I was leaned up against her window frame with a voice recorder in hand. I said, Melissa, sweetheart, are you with us? And I've got a little girl's voice, sounds like she is right beside the recorder, says, I'm with you.
Oh wow.
Wow.
And I mean, it was loud enough that it could have easily been mistaken for one of the guests, but not a one of them had made a sound. But I listened to that one 3 times, and I set the recorder down in the window, excused myself, and went outside to kind of get my shit together.
Mm.
Yeah.
We've investigated there so much, and I think Ryan can say the same thing. We've investigated there so much and researched this young girl's history so much that we feel a connection to her.
Aw.
So to hear that voice sound back right to me and use the same wording that I used, I asked, are you with us? And it replied back, she replied back, I'm with you. That to me, that was a direct connection with that young girl that was so brutally murdered in that house. And that one hit like a bus.
One of the
Absolutely.
clearest EVPs I captured was we're in the cabin. They're upstairs. I was upstairs with my girlfriend at the time and a friend of ours, and we're doing an EVP session, and you hear a voice coming through saying, I'm naked,
Oh,
clear as day. So nonchalant, matter of fact. We come to find out that during the was it early 2000s, late 90s or something?
Mid 80s.
Mid 80s. Oh shit. The cabin upstairs room where we were doing the EVP session was busted by the police as being a brothel.
Oh, wow.
So, and I don't know
They had
anyone
a
who actually
massage
died
parlor.
there. Yeah,
a massage
the
parlor.
happy endings. You pay a little extra, a little something at the end. You know what I mean? I don't know if anybody actually died there. Besides the person who tried to commit suicide, and she didn't actually even die anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if it's the just the power of the sexual like energy, I guess, that's kind of been etched into that cabin. Because if you go there and you start asking like dirty questions, or like more adult oriented questions, you get results. You get people, actually people start coming through on the spirit box, and you get more. And they kind of like that upstairs in in that room where I caught that EVP. So they're definitely different levels when it comes to the property. Like the cabin itself is our kind of our home base. That's where we have our, everyone meets at the cabin. It's more lighthearted. Uh, there's still some darkness in there every once in a while, but for the most part, it's basically just our hangout, like our somewhat of our clubhouse, but now more serious. Not Dennis has taken it over. I mean, he's really done a good job of like turning it into a more a professional paranormal place than it was before. Like he's put a big screen TV where you can like check out evidence and stuff, and he's really cleaned the place up. I can't give him enough credit for that. So that part's cool. And then, the property itself, the land was the site of a Civil War battle, the Battle of Bethesda Church, which is like one of the battles that took place right before the Battle of Cold Harbor, which I believe is the bloodiest battle per capita of the Civil War. Is that right, Dennis?
That is right.
And then in Brick Rancher, it's just darkness. It's just the best EVP I've heard from there. Wasn't even what we caught. It was there was a team that came out called Beyond the Badge Paranormal, and the first time they went out there, I talked to them after, and they said this place is messed up. I'm not gonna use the real word. What they said, and they were like,
It had an
"We're
F
never
in
coming
it.
back. We're never coming back. We're never coming back here again." They were like, nope, we're done. They were so distraught over what they encountered. They eventually did come back a few times. It's like one of their favorite locations now. And they told me when they booked the place, they were like, we thought it was just going to be a stopover location between their two bigs. Um they had investigated St. Albans and they had Sweet Springs Sanatorium coming up. So they're like, we'll come to the cabin. We'll do like a little practice investigation to get our heads right for the next investigation. And they were like, after that, they were like some actually almost quit the team because they're like, we can't. They were like, it was crazy.
Wow.
But yeah,
And that's just from like the heaviness of the feeling that they get, or is that from direct?
just your encounters. They got an EVP of a girl. Like I'm guessing it's Melissa. When they're upstairs in Melissa's room, clear as day, saying, "Please help me!" It was screaming it like it was in total, like like she was about to be murdered type.
Gosh.
It's clear as day. The first thing Dennis said to me when he walked into the front door of the cabin, their rancher, the first thing he said, when he looked at me, first time he's ever actually been inside, he was like, there is something in this house that's not human and never has been.
Oh.
And while we were walking around, again, it's the first time we'd ever been there, or he'd ever been there. I'd been there plenty of times. We were in the basement and we both heard a girl scream loud as clear as day. Now, this was in June. And so we thought, maybe they're, kids outside playing or whatever. So we went upstairs, went outside, and there was nobody. It was quiet. It was almost too quiet type of thing. It was like there's no sound at all. It was crazy.
It was
Wow.
bizarre. Now, the fact that I said this place, there's something here that's not human and never has been. We've all had quote unquote sensitives on the team, but I think Ryan can vouch when I say I truly am a gifted individual between medium and remote viewing. So for me to make a profound statement like that, I don't think I've ever made that statement in another location that I've walked in where just instantly I could feel that difference in energy. I knew something was wrong there. So over the years, to correlate right along with that, we've had a lot of people that suspect there's a demonic entity in the basement. truth be told, I think what's down there is an elemental, uh, just a spirit of the earth, and they were conjured or brought forth by the Powhatan Indians. Um, but they're known to be a shapeshifter, and a bit of a prankster. But there was an EVP that I captured where I asked, "Are you the dark energy that caused Randy to rape and murder his own sister?" And the voice I got back was a deep, gruff, "Yes."
Oh, wow.
That in itself was freaky. But
Yeah.
several months after that, we had the Twisted Realm, uh, and they shot an episode there. It's the Twisted Paranormal Society out of Fishersville, does a Paraflix series called The Twisted Realm. And Tana asked the question, "Why did you cause Randy to harm his own sister?" And that same deep, gruff voice replied on voice recorder, "The violence." So something there claims ability to cause these things. We've got one of the gentlemen that has kind of followed the story of the rancher and followed us from investigations, has been out there several times, actually tracked down and reached out and called Randy. When he asked Randy, "Did you do this?" Randy's answer to him was, "Even though I stand here today a convicted man, I wasn't there that day. That effing house should have been burned down years ago."
Oh, wow.
In that response, I think he's acknowledging that there's something in the house that played a major role in what took place that day.
Absolutely.
I have had my own experiences of just not acting right or not thinking right because of the location. We did a New Year's Eve party, what, Ryan, 6, 7 years ago? Something like
Yeah,
that.
right when we first started going out there, might have been the first New Year's Eve we've had out there because every other one we've had something going on.
Yeah. But it was pretty much private party. We got, team members, their kids, friends, and their kids. We carried in a TV and put up the little, just to stick it to the wall antenna so we could get like local station and watch Times Square and the ball drop. So kids are all dancing and laughing and having a great time. We got the music turned up. It's like Dick Clark's Rocking New Year's Eve or whatever. I'm sitting back in the corner drinking my coffee and just started getting mad. And I'm getting mad for no reason. And the next thing I know, I'm seeing images flashing in my head of pulling my weapon and just start to shoot everybody.
Oh. Wow.
Completely out of character for me. So I walked past Ryan and said, "I'll be back." And I walked into the brick rancher and I threw the door open and slammed it against the wall. And I yelled, "All right, mother effer, we need to talk." And the house growled at me. There was a deep grumble growl that just reverberated through the house. So I went to the basement and I started going off. I'm like, "You're not allowed in my thoughts. You're not allowed in my emotions. You're not allowed to tamper in my head. I will call my saints and I will cross you. I will push you into the light. I will burn enough sage up in this place to set smoke detectors off for a mile radius." While I'm going off, Ryan come over and asked if I'm all right. "Yeah, just setting the record straight." And Ryan's response was, "All right, well, the house growled at me. I'll be next door if you need me." And he laughed.
Yeah, I wasn't about to deal with a growling house that night. I was having too much fun for New Year's Eve. Like, you're on your own, brother. Just want to make sure you're okay.
Wow.
But
I'd
what
want
did
to
you
go on
guys?
any night.
Yeah.
But what did you guys hear yesterday, Ryan?
I was walking into the rancher, and my dumbass didn't have my recorder going, which I usually do because a lot of times we'll walk in there and you'll hear a conversation, or you hear someone's actually heard. One time I heard a voice saying hello as I walked in the front door, had the recorder going, captured that. But we walked in, it was my friend Sarah, Elizabeth, and Crystal walking in the front door, and Sarah and I both heard a growl, like "Arr." It sounded just like that, and I thought it was Dennis trying to mess with us. And so I was like, then I said like I'm a demon because that's what Dennis would say. Like he likes to fuck people. Like I'm a
Is that an
demon.
asshole?
Yeah, yeah, a little bit. So so I said that, and then I looked around. I'm like, where is Dennis? Because I thought maybe he was in Randy's room, which is right next to Melissa's room. I walk in there, he's not there. I see Jason is in Melissa's room, and I asked him if he had made the growling sound, and he was like, "What are you talking about? What growling sound?" I'm like, "You didn't make that sound of like the growl?" He was like, "No, I've just been over here listening to my EVPs or whatever." And Crystal and Elizabeth did not hear it. Sarah and I were the only ones who did hear it.
Wow.
Wow, that's crazy.
It is a insane location. And what's really cool about the cabin versus most other locations, so we have the log cabin, we have the brick rancher, plus we have the rest of the land, which is about 6 acres, that's all wooded. And we've got trails cut through those. And we've heard, disembodied voices, whistling, running, shadow figures. There's been full-bodied apparitions of Confederate soldiers seen on the property.
Wow.
So, I mean, most places go, you get this whole building to yourself. Ours, we could go, you get this building, or you get that building, or you get all those woods back there. So you get, Sean Austin from like 28 Days Haunted and the Demon Files said this place is the perfect trifecta of paranormal locations. You've got the calm energies that are in the log cabin, then you have something a little darker that's in the brick rancher, and then you have soldiers and God knows what else back in the woods. So it's the property is definitely its own style. It's its own place. I've been doing this for 25 years, and I have yet to find another place that compares to it in the type of areas that you get to investigate with this.
Wow.
Let alone with the type of, every place brags that they have, missing teenage girl somewhere in time. Ours, I can show you the police report and I can show you the newspaper reports where she was murdered in the house. I can show you her autopsy. I can show you a picture of her headstone. So it's not just myth, lore, and legend. This is actual facts.
Mm-hmm.
I took time when we first started investigating there. I took time at the courthouse trying to track down tax records and anything and everything I could find. And then I got introduced to a captain and a lieutenant on the local sheriff's department, and they were both rookie field officers, patrol deputies at that time. And they were both on scene that day. So they described to me what the house looked like, what the scene itself looked like. So, I've got firsthand accounts from that day 45 years ago, 44 years ago, from law enforcement.
45 years ago to this year. 45 years.
Oh, wow.
So it's not just, this isn't the myth. This is proven. And as far as the war and the battles that took place around our land, we have found, Ryan's done a lot of research in books and so forth and found exact battles that took place on or right beside our land. 10th Virginia had 400 members wiped out 1/10 of a mile away from our land. That the way the topography fell at that time, their blood literally would have washed across the back end of our property. So, and we've had great interaction with devices from asking, are you with 10th Virginia? It's just one of those places that I've never been $500,000 in debt, but this property has pushed me to where I'm going to be, because I don't want to see it leave the paranormal field. It has way too much to offer. There's way too much that we can learn about the paranormal to give this property up.
Oh,
It has brought a lot of people together. Um, People from all walks of life have come out to join us on our investigations. People from around all over the country have come out to investigate out here on more than one occasion.
Yeah.
I might add.
sounds really cool to be able to go out to like the woods and in the buildings and stuff and just be able to see what you can feel or catch, and that would be really interesting to do.
It's
What
tough
about-
to- it's definitely
Unless you're
tough.
unless you're a team from New Hampshire.
Oh, yeah. That's an interesting story.
Hmm.
They tell it live or no?
Oh yeah, we can.
Oh yeah.
Go for it, Ryan.
Well,
You interviewed him.
well, there is a team. I'm not gonna name the team because I don't want to do that. But they had rented the cabin for the weekend, like the whole weekend. They packed their stuff up into a Ford Expedition and drove down 9 hours, paid I think it was $400 or whatever. We were charging $700. $700 makes it even better. They paid the $700 to spend the weekend down there, Friday, Saturday, and leave Sunday, right? I had gone to the beach with my family, and Dennis was the one who met him and gave him the tour. So Dennis gave him the tour and gives him the keys and said, just lock up when you're done and leave the keys right here behind the light or whatever, and I'll come back and on Sunday and make sure everything is locked up and everything. So he leaves, and about 45 minutes after he left, hour and a half after he left, he gets a phone call from the team leader, and they were like, "Yep, we're packing up, we're leaving." And he was like, "We weren't prepared for this." And this is a team that had been on several investigations to all the major places that you think of, especially in the Northeast. Probably, I think they've probably been the Hinsdale House, and I know they've been to Waverly Hills. I know they've been to Penhurst. They said they had over 40 years of experience between the two. They were best friends, more like brothers. They were like, when my best friend, who I'd known for 20 years, probably 30 years, said to me, "All I want to do is punch you in the face." They were like, "Yeah, we got to go." And I asked him on the show, I'm like, had you ever left a paranormal investigation before? And they were like, never. I've never left an investigation before. They from the beginning of they didn't even make it to the Brick Rancher.
Nope.
All this stuff happened in the cabin and in the woods. One of the guys went upstairs. He went upstairs to the loft area, and he looked. He said he saw a figure with the body of a man, legs of a goat in the upstairs
That's not good.
area. And the other guy was tensions were kind of rising between the two, and when the other guy had said that he went to the woods to get away from everyone and to take a leak. So he goes in the woods and He said he's finishing up his business. He turns around and he's surrounded by people with cloaks on, and he's like freaking out. He shines his flashlight and they disappear. So again, this is all their story told to me. Um, and they were like they get back, and that's when they're down was come to blows, and they're finally like we have to go because we can't let this place tear us apart. So they called Dennis, and he was like, I can come out there and I can bless the place and tell them to calm down a bit. And they were like, no, we would feel better if we just left. So they packed their stuff up and drove home. But Dennis has an addendum to that story because you talked to him on the way back home, right?
Yeah, after they called and told me everything that they had encountered, um, I told him, I said, well, listen, on your first stop, give me a call, put me on speakerphone. So I'm blessed in 5 different religions, 3 different beliefs, and I'm an ordained minister. When other teams have things that are beyond their realm of knowledge or their ability, they call me. So at your first stop, put me on speakerphone. I will talk to your whole team and we'll do a prayer and blessing session. And from the background, I hear this young man that's just kind of going off. And he's like, well, look, we're right up the road at Wawa now, man. I can do that right now before we get back in the truck. And I said, well, that's fine. Just call everybody together. So he calls everybody over and he's like, so Dennis is going to do a prayer and blessing session with us. And I hear this young man go, well, what the F is he going to do? He's nobody. And I just started chuckling. And I said, that's the one that found himself surrounded in the woods, isn't it? And he's like, yeah, how do you know? I said, get him on his knees. So I did a prayer and blessing session. After we say amen, everybody starts to get up and I hear, what the hell are we doing on the ground? Where the hell? When did we leave the cabin? What the hell are we doing here?
Oh,
I just started
wow.
laughing and I went, so how you feel, young man? And he's like, I'm confused. What the hell are we doing here? So he didn't even know what was going on. He
You
not
think
only
he got like
found himself,
possessed?
I think so. I mean, so he goes out to the woods. He's headed to the way back. He stops into the tree line to take a leak. He's surrounded by hooded, cloaked figures. And, that's kind of the last thing he remembers. He doesn't remember going off on them when he got back to the cabin. He doesn't remember yelling, what the F is Dennis going to do? He doesn't remember any of this. So the place is an anomaly in and of itself, given the fact that there is so much that has happened. I don't even know how to categorize most of
Yeah.
it. It's kind of, I think there have been more WTF moments on that property than any other property I've been to.
There is no way to really like categorize or like you said, put into perspective everything that's happened there in one show to even like wrap your head around it. If there's I wish I could make up a word to describe everything that's happened in that place because there's just so much stuff that's taken place. Like every team that comes out there has an experience.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty much every team that's come out, even if it's a small experience, you're not gonna have what happened to that team in New Hampshire happen every single time.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
But
not every team gets the grand finale, so to speak.
yeah, but it's good to be prepared for it because there's a good chance it could happen.
So I know
It's
this is going to sound really out there and outlandish, but because it is so unique in the amount of activity and the different time periods, it sounds like the activity is coming from. Do you think it's possible that there's some kind of like maybe like a purgatory station there where spirits are maybe blocked from being able
Mhm.
to move on. Or maybe it's some kind of a dimension block.
There are times when I will be downstairs in the basement doing an EVP session. I will listen back, and you can hear what sounds like chatter in the background. You know when you go to like a train station or something crowded, someplace crowded, and you hear murmuring talk, but you can hear words, but you don't can't really make out what they're saying.
Yeah.
We get that. I get that a lot in the basement. In the rancher, you'll hear talking, but again, it sounds muffled, like people are talking in the next room, but you can't hear what they're saying. There are a few times I've gone over back to the cabin and I'll ask Dennis if he was standing outside in the backyard behind the rancher talking on the phone, and he'd be like, "No, I was in the cabin the whole time."
Oh, wow.
So I think that is a very good possibility. It's a possibility that there are portals
That's
on
what
the
I was
property
thinking
as
when you
well.
mentioned cloaked people. I was thinking maybe somebody performed a ritual at some point in time that created a portal or blocked a portal, maybe. To where just the
Well,
spirits that do pass away there just get stuck and they just can't go anywhere else. And I can't imagine how angry some of them must be. Or maybe one of them brought forth a demonic spirit of some kind that's not allowing the other spirits to pass or move on.
we've had several psychics come through the property, and a number of them have said that this place is kind of like a bus station. They just come and go and come and go and come and go. But we do have several resident spirits that we've interacted with several times. But here's and everything, of course, in this field, everything's a theory. But one of the theories is we know we have resident spirits. What if, and it sits right on a 4-lane highway. So at night, early evening, there's a lot of traffic, but later in the evening, the traffic quiets down. But let's take a hypothetical. I mean, that road was there during the Civil War and before, but how many deaths took place on that road? How many car crashes happened on that road? How many motorcycle crashes? And what if those spirits, those souls are like instant death? They ran off the road and hit a tree. And one of the theories in the paranormal is if the body and the spirit are ripped apart so abruptly that the spirit doesn't even realize that the body is dead. So now you've got the spirit out there going, what the hell? This looks all different. And he looks across the way and goes, oh, well, they look kind of like me. Let me go talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we just don't know. I don't know, and I don't want to say that there is a collector there, but it's a potential. With the number of spirits that we've interacted with over the years, anything's possible. Is it just that from time to time we catch that perfect, maybe it's lunar, maybe it's solar, maybe it's something to do with the weather, where that little rift in time is perfect, that realm can interact with this realm so much easier. I mean, there's so many theories and we just don't know. But I think there are like 4 or 5 resident spirits in the log cabin. And I think there are 3 or 4 resident spirits in the brick rancher. I think there are countless, for lack of a better term, resident spirits in the woods. So I don't know. I don't know if we get new ones all the time. It is baffling how many we have interacted with and can interact repeatedly.
Mm.
The old man that stood at my feet one night, he has interacted and been seen on numerous occasions. The old man that stepped in front of me in the brick rancher uh, caused me to nearly wet myself. Uh, he's been seen several times. So, we do have our resident spirits, but I think we also have some that, I don't know. I mean, we constantly welcome them. If you're a new spirit here, welcome. Welcome to the cabin on 360. You're free to stay.
Yes. So we won't charge rent for the wayward spirits who wanna hang out and haunt this and haunt, give us, give
Yeah.
people evidence. All we ask,
Yeah. Don't be
Let
a
us know you're
wallflower.
there.
Join in the dance.
yeah. As long as you talk, we're good.
But it's
Um,
been
Folks
such a
across the room,
strange
that
place.
works too. Yeah. It,
Have you ever had anything like physically happen? Like, have you ever been scratched or touched or like whispered in the like close to the ear or anything?
Oh yeah. So one of the funniest nights, um, I had a group of like 8 ladies with me, and it started out with us in mid woods. We had a flashlight, or I don't even know if it was, I mean, it couldn't have been a flashlight because it just flipping vanished, but it looked like somebody walked into the woods from the side access road with a flashlight. So we go through that encounter of me trying to figure out who it is. Then we move to the way back when that just vanished. And as we're at the way back, we're standing in a circle and we keep hearing running around us. Finally, I've done like 3, 4, 5 EVP sessions, just little burst sessions, and I'm not getting any answers. So I said, look, we're hearing all these footsteps. Everybody turn your back to the circle, look outward. And for most of our public events, we hang glow sticks in the trees all around. It gives you something to focus on, and you're not in total darkness, but you get to watch for figures moving through that little bit of light. And we've seen them blacked out more than once. But I've got a 360 periscope sitting on the ground. I've got a REM pod sitting on the ground. And I asked the question, what do you think of Abraham Lincoln? Well, then we all hear like 3 or 4 heavy footsteps. The 360 periscope lit up. The REM pod went off. The girl behind me jumps and hollers, what the hell? And then something went across the small of my back strong enough that when it hit my weapon, as I carry a sidearm, it literally kicked my hip to the side. Well, once everything calmed down, I mean, the first thing I did was pull a flashlight up and start looking around to see what the hell just happened. When everything calmed down, I asked the young lady behind me, I said, all right, what happened? Why'd you scream? And she's like, well, you asked about Abraham Lincoln and those 2 things went off. Well, we heard the footsteps, those 2 things went off. And then straight up, it felt like somebody grabbed a handful of my ass. But
Wow.
wasn't me. She's like, well, I thought it was you. I spun around. I was going to light you up. But then you jumped. And wait a minute. I've never seen you jump. I've investigated with you several times. I've never seen you jump. What made you jump? So I told him about something going across the small of my back. And then the woman that was standing off to my side goes, okay, that makes perfect sense. So from over here, the footsteps, the 2 devices, her, you, and then this icy cold blast blew right through me. She's like, I think somebody ran right through here.
Wow.
Well, so that was the most profound, was that young lady getting her ass grabbed.
Wow.
We've had several in the basement that report getting scratched. Sarah, that Ryan mentioned earlier, had a pretty nasty mark, like mid neck, just above her collar. Didn't just get a scratch down there also?
Yeah.
I mean, we've had several that have claimed scratches in the buildings. And of course,
Sarah wasn't even acting like herself when she got scratched. We were in the basement, and Sarah is usually a pretty, very outgoing, very friendly person. And it wasn't being very responsive downstairs in the basement, and she was getting more and more pissed off at whatever is down there, and started calling it a little bitch and just saying stuff that she would normally say. So I was like, well, that's one way to investigate, I guess. So, and while she was sitting there and she was getting more and more upset, and all of a sudden she hit the back of her neck. She's like, ow. And then and she kind of like she's holding it. I went by and went over there and looked at her, and she had this scratch mark that there wasn't just one scratch. It almost looked like a few scratches. And we took her next back to the cabin, and we looked at the scratch marks, and it was the same scratch marks as the Indian symbol for death on the back of her neck. And they were deep scratch marks. So if she had done it to herself, she would have had to like really scratch hard to get to the way it was.
And
Which
they
again,
wilted.
I had my eyes on her the whole time. That I would have seen it if she had tried to do something like that. It was crazy. And that's just one of many things that have happened out there um, to a numerous amount of people. We had a investigator, our friend John, who had been investigating with his wife for what 30 years or something, for a long time.
Well, they had started their team about 5 years earlier, I think it was.
30 years for over exaggeration, but you know,
I mean,
they had
they had been interested in it and had been watching the shows for quite a while. And
mhm.
about 5 years earlier, they had started their team and then started going to locations on their own.
But this is a big guy, and they were leading one of the teams during one of our public investigations, and it's just one of those nights where everything seemed to be going wrong for them, and they were in the rancher, and the more things went wrong, the more pissed off John got, and he said that one of the investigators, one of the people, one of our the people who came out for the investigation was like, I don't know why, but I have this urge to look at you and go ha ha ha. And John was like, well, that's kind of weird. Didn't think of much of it. And then I think his SLS camera, the batteries ran out, and they had just put new batteries in. That was the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. He was like, God damn it. And, getting more and more, just got really pissed off. And his wife was like, we go through this stuff all the time. You know what this thing can do to you. You can just relax. We can get through this. And he was like, I never wanted to hurt my family, but at that moment, I wanted to punch her in the face. And as soon as he felt that strongly, that he knew he had to get out. So he got up, walks up the steps, leaves the house, comes to the cabin. Now I'm sitting in the main sitting area of the cabin, talking to a friend of mine, and he comes in, pushes the door open, like rushes in, and asks where Dennis is. I'm like, well, he's in the woods. He was like, Dennis doesn't even say anything, turns around, slams the door, and walks out. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm not used to seeing him like this. So I go out and see what's up. He's on his knees. He was like, I need Dennis. So I go find Dennis, take him back, and right now it's starting to rain. This guy is on his knees crying because of what he experienced in the Brick Rancher, and I'll let Dennis take the story from here.
Yeah, so as soon as I came up, I asked him what was wrong. And his first words to me was, the bastard got me. That little bastard got me. I said, all right, calm down, brother. What's going on? What happened? He started to tell me the story, and I said, all right, first thing we're going to do is go over here on neutral ground. We're going to do a grounding session, cleansing and blessing. Then we're going back in and get your energy back. He's like, I am not going back in that building. And I went, yes, you are. You're going back in with me, and we're going to reclaim your energy, and we're not going to let this shit happen. But, you know, he had lost a few pieces of equipment to battery drain. When his SLS camera died, it was one of my builds. It's a Microsoft Surface 4 Pro tablet. I've set mine up and let it run for 6 to 8 hours at a stretch and still have plenty of battery life. He said he watched his within 5 minutes go from 78% to 0 and shut off. And that was when he lost his mind. He's like, I stomped across the basement like a little 12-year-old that just got denied his first kiss. And Lynn and Kristen, which is his wife and daughter, are telling him it's battery drain. It's battery drain. It's no big deal. We're used to this. He's like, I just wanted to punch them both in the mouth till they shut the fuck up. I'm like, all right, let's go deal with this. And that's not the first time that we've had that issue. I've had my cell phone go from full charge to power saver within minutes. You know, it doesn't matter what, I mean, Copper Top or Amazon, it's going to eat batteries when it wants. And you're just going to have to figure out what to do with it. Like I've taken I throw glow sticks in the basement in 2 opposing corners now just to watch the shadow figure because you'll see it move back and forth.
Wow.
It's insane. I'm going to share a drawing that was given to us by one of our guests years ago. Ryan was in the basement with her. It was her dad, Bill Hartley from Ghosts of Shepherdstown, one of our previous investigators, and Ryan in the basement. And I hope this shows on the camera.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah, it shows.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh.
So that little fella showed up. She said he was hanging out behind the steps just staring at her. And she's kind of freaked out.
He was really
her dad
freaked out.
realized something was wrong. He came over and starts asking her what's wrong. She's not responding to him. Finally, he grabbed her shoulder and said, what the hell's going on? And she's like, it's just staring at me. Don't you see it? He's like, I didn't see shit, but it didn't feel right. Then Ryan realized something's wrong. So Ryan goes over and same thing. She's telling him, it's just staring at me. Don't you see it? He's like, I didn't see anything, but I know I needed to get her out. So they took her out to the log cabin, set her on the front steps, bring me out of the woods. And once again, we're doing a grounding and cleansing session. And I'm taking her back to the basement to reclaim her energy. 2 weeks later, she brought us that drawing. Now, 6 weeks after that drawing, we had a team came out that had the I forget what they call it, the attachment. It's a flare attachment, thermal, goes on the bottom of your cell phone. I think it's called a FLIR 1.
FLIR, yeah.
But this little fella showed up on that.
Oh, wow.
ooh.
Ooh.
So I have no idea what he is.
No, but that just gave me chill bumps.
Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah.
say my whole body is. Oh.
He's a bit of an asshole.
Oh.
And
The thing is with that, going back to Cameron, she was happy. She was laughing. She went from laughing and having a good time upstairs, came downstairs, and she was crying. She was so scared.
Oh.
It scared her so much that she was literally freaking out. To go from one extreme to the next was just, and yeah. And her dad was like, I'd never seen her so scared before.
Hmm.
I can see why if that's what she saw, and yeah, that would have been enough for me.
And the cabin and the rancher are so unassuming that you would not expect this much activity to be there. It's not like it's a prison or, an asylum. or anything like that. It's just two houses, random houses in the middle of country Mechanicsville.
Yeah. I mean, driving by, you kind of, anybody that's done investigations for a long time looks at two fairly empty looking places and goes, I wonder if it's haunted.
Hmm.
I do
Yeah,
that
it is.
myself.
Every time.
I'll tell you, yeah, it is. You know, but we do this thing that, you know, any long lane that goes off the road, I'm like, I wonder what's back there. I wonder if it's haunted. You know, and that's why it took Ryan nearly a year to get me to come out, because it's just a log cabin and a little brick rancher sitting.
I think we lost you.
Yeah, the mic went out or something. There he is.
I touched it.
You go touching things.
I touched it. Touch it right here.
Oh, there we go.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And
Ah.
so when I moved my hands, I touched it. And that's
Somebody
the
else
mute.
talks with their hands.
Yeah, if you tied my wrist, man, I couldn't hold a conversation.
Her either.
Yeah. But yeah, it's one of those places that I'm like, Ryan, why in the hell are we going to go out there, man? They're not that old. They don't have a history. And he's like, well, I know that there was a murder in the one, and we didn't even know who was murdered. We
Yeah.
just know it was some girl was murdered. We didn't know if she was, 10 or 100.
For the
We just
longest
know
time,
it
I
was
thought
a
she was like
female.
18. Yeah, I never, I just assumed she was older,
So
but
once I started digging at the courthouse, and then they introduced me to the captain and the lieutenant, I was like, holy shit. Then we had a name, and then it was off to the races. I could go into newspapers.com and I could go find articles. But, without a name of victim or perpetrator, and all you have is what the address used to be, you can't find anything. And it used to be US Route 1 was what it, they had like PO Box, I don't know, 543 or whatever it was, US Route 1. So they would have to go into town because they were rural. I mean, this was truly country. So you had to go into town, go to the PO, get the box, But at some point, then it gets readdressed. And my understanding is it was readdressed for the 911 enhanced system. So when you call in, it automatically gives the address. But we didn't know a victim, we didn't know a perpetrator. So in meeting with the deputies, I found out the perpetrator's name. And once I found his name, then I could search him. And that led me to the whole can of worms. But they were able to give me a very good portion of the story from that day.
Yeah.
It's been a huge can of worms. We know that during the Civil War, there was a home kind of partway where the log cabin is to partway to the brick rancher next door, and that was the Curry family. And they're even mentioned in a lieutenant colonel's journal from the Villa house that's about 1.25 miles to our northeast. So if you picture the log cabin as here, 1.25 miles to the northeast is the Villa house. And then just across the road from us is Bethesda Church. Bethesda Church was a Confederate headquarters. Villa House was a Union headquarters. We're right in the middle.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, we are between, well, as I've said many times, Union headquarters, Confederate headquarters, oh shitsville. And we're right in the middle of it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a theory that man's atrocity to man can open a portal that thins the veil. Well, the atrocities that took place on or just near our land are horrific. Ryan found a journal entry talking about the little red cap boy. And it's about a 15-year-old Confederate soldier that ran off to join the Confederate Army. His two older brothers had already run off. He was fighting about a tenth of a mile away from our property. His color bearer was dropped. He ran up and picked up colors. And as he's waving the flag, he's quoted as saying, damn them all to hell. They've killed my brothers. They may as well kill me too. Well, it goes on to say that he was permitted to bear colors for 20 minutes until they trained a big gun on him. And the last that could be seen of him as his limbs blew in each direction was his little red cap before his flesh was splattered upon us. They shot him with a cannon, a 15-year-old boy. So that's the atrocity that took place right around our land. So if we go by the theory that man's atrocity to man can open a portal, and are we ripe for an opening right there?
Sure.
And
I
there's
believe
a reason. There's a reason why we are here right now, and we are the ones who are responsible for the cabin. I feel like we're meant to do this. I mean, if my grandfather hadn't bought the property, we wouldn't be here. There's just so many things that have happened for us to be in this spot where we are together, Dennis and I, and everyone who's a part of this. There's a reason why we're here, and is to let people know about this place.
Yeah.
I seriously think the universe set everything in motion. So twice a year we do a fundraiser at the cabin to raise funds and buy flags. We've got a couple of cemeteries that are pretty much overgrown. But we go out and place about 700 flags twice a year on veterans' headstones.
Wow.
That's
So
awesome.
this property helps us do that. If it hadn't, well, in doing those, I do a presentation. I talk about a couple of the different soldiers that I've researched at each of the cemeteries. And I always make this statement. It is said that man dies two deaths, one when this physical body dies, and the second death when his name is no longer spoken. Well, for some reason, I feel that our job is to make sure that Melissa doesn't die that second death. Her name will never be forgotten.
Wow.
We have a picture from her yearbook that sits on our mantle in the log cabin and the mantle in the brick rancher. We go out and we do memorial parties for her. Flowers get left in her room. But this young lady's tragic loss of life brought together some truly wonderful friendships.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the universe put it in place that Ryan and I were the ones that made sure this continues and that this young lady is not forgotten.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, definitely. You guys definitely seem to be exactly where you should be. You know, you understand the land, you understand the history, you understand the spirits, and you know how to keep it safe and thriving for them, for the spirits that are there, which is something that not a lot of people in the world would do. You know, a lot of times when people prove spirits do exist, that their goal is to help them move on or to get rid of them, and not saying that you wouldn't want to help them move on, but knowing that they're safe there, that you're not just trying to dispel them or banish them, and that you're allowing them a place to be, is incredible, because a lot of people wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Well, the other problem is, and I've been asked many times, why don't you cross them over? Well, they're kind of like the library books. I go to the library to interact with the books and to learn. if I get rid of all the books in the library may as well fall and go to nothing. So, and then there's other people that are like, oh, you're just taking advantage of them for your financial gain. No, because I'm asshole deep in debt. So please show me the gain. I'm not
Yeah.
seeing this.
I mean, every other paranormal location, you can ask the same thing about to any other paranormal location, why they're, crossing them over. It's,
And you can't learn from them. And part of paranormal investigating is to learn what they can and cannot do, learn how they can do it. And as I've said many times during presentations, when this meat suit dies, I want to know what the hell I can look forward to. Can I haunt people? I have a list. It's a big damn list too. But I didn't want to see this property fall to the developer's bulldozer and become a damn car wash or a vape shop. And we lose such a cool piece of history. I mean, our battlefields are being eaten up by development every day. This one we get to save. And not only by saving the battlefield, we're also saving these spirits from whatever the developer has in mind. I don't know. I think there was, 8-9 years ago when you and I first started this venture, Ryan.
yeah.
There was a reason why we have gotten where we've gotten. And all of a sudden there's an LLC with the Cabin on 360 and my ass is on the line for all of it.
We've come a
All of
long
it-
way.
All of it
Since
came
that
together
first-
for a reason.
We've come a long way since that first initial, walk into the front door of the Brick Rancher.
Well, it's not every day I walk into a property and somebody screams bloody murder and scares the hell out of me.
Yeah, that's not everyday occurrence.
I mean, it was literally this blood curdling scream. And we both kind of looked at each other and we didn't even have to ask the stupid question. Did you hear that? Because there was no damn denying we heard that. I mean, it echoed through the house. We both kind of turned and looked at each other and went, what the hell was that? It wasn't, did you hear that? Because there was, I mean, it was a given. You had to hear it. But,
Yeah,
we're running upstairs, looked like two monkeys with our asses on fire,
Yeah.
running out the door to see what's happening. We're thinking somebody outside has just gotten, machete. No, there's nothing.
One solitary scream, and like I said before, I had been inside the Brick Rancher. My like I said, my grandfather bought the property, and there were, after the whatever took place with Melissa, no one would live in a house. Actually, I think there may have been someone lived in a house briefly after it, but they moved out pretty quick. So they had to rezone it for business, and so when the business would come and they would stay, but they never lasted very long. When the sump pump would stop working, when it would rain, the basement would flood. Not only flood, just be water on the floor. So they'd have me come out there and suck up the water with a shop vac. I never really had any problems, but I was always like, just in case. Don't
Hey, I'm
bother
here,
me.
leave me alone.
Yeah, I'm here. Just leave me alone. I'm just here to do my job. Don't bother me. I never really had any problems. The team I was with before, I hooked up with Dennis, All Seeing Paranormal Society with Howie Odell. I invited him and the team to come out there before, and I told him the same thing I told Dennis. I'm like, look, I don't know if there's anything there. There's a murder that took place. But that's all I know because I never really didn't really have an experience out there myself. So they go out there, and I couldn't stay for that investigation because I had a family thing to do. But Howie said that he had to pull the team early because one of the investigators got scratched. One of their mediums started crying for no reason, and a whole bunch of other weird stuff happened. And he was like, it was like 2 hours into the investigation. They're supposed to be there all night, and he was like, for the safety of the team, I had to pull them out. But I didn't experience it myself, so I didn't, you know, I didn't know the extent of what they had experienced until I went in there with Dennis and we heard that scream. And as soon as we got heard that almost a confirmation, we started coming out there pretty much every weekend. We would go out there and we were like, okay, we'll investigate the rancher. And luckily at the time, the cabin was also empty. So we had two empty houses, and we got permission from my dad to use both houses, and we'll use the cabin as our base. They were like, okay, well, maybe there's something here in the cabin. Let's set up an EVP. Let's set up a recorder, and we'll investigate the cabin, see if we get anything. Of course, we get stuff in the cabin. I'm like, oh, okay, we got to investigate both houses. Oh, come to find out, the woods was the site of the Battle of Bethesda Church. Oh, let's go on the woods, see if we catch something out there. So it was just like one
Just
thing after another.
snowballed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And we did like a year of investigating out there um before we even invited other teams to come out. And then the teams came out, they were verifying what we were getting, and then eventually when we started opening it up to public and having public investigations, and you know, giving the money to charities and stuff like that, giving back to the community when we could.
It's really awesome that you guys are able to do that and that you put so much time in and to make sure that you did it the right way and that you're doing it the right way and also preserving what was already there. That's incredible.
We're trying. Unfortunately, with the amount of overhead from acquiring the property, we can't do quite as much of the philanthropic stuff that we had been doing. But I don't want to lose that either. And doing podcasts like this and hanging out with you lovely ladies, getting the word out about this property, hopefully that helps us get more and more bookings. That gets, I mean, I hate to say it and it sounds like greed, but that gets us more money in that I can make sure that the repairs are done that need done. I can make sure that we're still able to do, once or twice a month, we can do a philanthropic event. I mean, December 7, we're having a Toys for Tots toy drive. And this makes our 7th, I think, year working with Toys for Tots. Donate a toy, and ticket cost to come to the cabin is only $20.
Oh, nice.
We used to do it at no cost, just a toy donation, but with the amount of overhead, I don't have an option. I have to keep funds coming in. So I'm doing $20 plus a toy, and all the toys will go to Toys for Tots. The United States Marine Corps and their endeavors. There's so many this time of year that I would hate to see any child wake up Christmas morning and go, aren't I good enough? Doesn't Santa like me? Why did all the other kids get toys under their tree? So the Marine Corps has stepped up to help those that can't. So we're going to step up and help them. It's things like that. Like December 11th, we're doing an open house just to introduce us and the location to our local community, because for so long we were kind of stifled on what we could do advertising wise. To quote Ryan's dad, how the hell am I going to sell it if you're telling God and country it's haunted? Well, shit, I hate to tell you, but most of them already know it's haunted. I got
Yeah.
pulled over by a sheriff deputy in the driveway of the Brick Rancher, and she lit me up at the crossover because you got 2 lanes eastbound, 2 lanes westbound. I hit the crossover to make the U-turn. And as soon as I pointed at the driveway, all you see was when we pull in, I'm like, you all right, deputy? And she's like, yeah, but I really don't want to be here. I know the story on these places. I'm not comfortable. I mean, even the law enforcement knows, but he didn't want to put it out there and didn't like it when we did. If we put posts in, like Mechanicsville Trading Post or, buy, sell local Facebook page sites, things like that, we would be told, man, you can't be doing that. You're putting it out there as it's haunted. I'm trying to sell it and get it off the company books. I mean, it's been a red calendar or red column issue for their company for years. And I'm hoping to take full ownership of it and make it what it's supposed to be. I don't think they'll ever survive as anything else. The only thing that will happen is they'll start a bulldozer out front and stop it out back. And I don't want to see that. The last business that was in the Brick Rancher was an insurance guy. Farmers insurance. Fuck this. Wait, that's not the right song, is it? But that's what it went. He came in, he signed a 2-year lease, and in 10 months, Ryan went out to clear some brush, and dude had packed his stuff and was gone.
Wow.
Just poof.
Didn't even
lease
say
and
anything.
gone. Nope.
Nope. He didn't bother telling the property manager or anything.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
tens of thousands of dollars in franchise fees, business license, and everything. It costs thousands to start a business, and especially an insurance company franchise. But yeah, 10 months he packed up and moved out.
Oh,
So
wow.
I don't think it's ever. I think it was intended that eventually we were going to come along and we were going to do what needs to be done to honor the spirits that are stuck there and rescue it. So hopefully the paranormal community steps up, helps me save this place, helps us save this place. And they book it, they get a great investigation and one of the coolest investigation locations I've ever dealt with. I mean, I've been to St. Albans Sanatorium. I've been to, West Virginia State Penitentiary. Ryan's been to Hinsdale House. We've been to so many of the big name locations, and it always comes back, not just a biased thing. It always comes back to the cabin feels like home.
Yeah.
And, we get just as much activity. I mean, I've shared this story 100 times. In the 25 plus years or so that I've been investigating, I've had the shit scared out of me twice. Once was at St. Albans Sanatorium. You know that feeling when your blood just turns to jello and you just, every muscle and joint in your body just locks up and you just stand there like, what the hell do I do? What do I do? What do I do? That feeling I got in St. Albans Sanatorium the first time. I was in the long dark hallway and something charged up behind me and just, it felt massive. The second time was in the Brick Rancher. I had Ryan and 2 prospect team members in the building with me. I came up out of the basement and I made the right to go into the living room. And there's 3 windows across from you. So you have this huge opening where you can look and see the tree line across the road. Even middle of the night, there's enough light pollution that you can see the tree line. And as I hit that doorway, all I got was this. And it went black in my face. And I felt that energy just charge up on me. And it's one of those moments where you go, and I backed up a full step and I'm like, Ryan, where are you at? He's like, we're over by the bathroom. Why? And that's when I went off. I'm like, don't you ever step up on me like that. I went on a little tirade. And then you hear like 3 boot steps go across the hardwood floor. And everything goes dead silent. And Ryan goes, what just happened? I said, I don't know, man. I think I peed a little. I'm going out and smoke a cigarette. But, you know, it was one of those things where I've never had that happen in other locations. I mean, we've led investigations in countless places. Edgewood Plantation, we used to lead investigations out there, and it's got a wonderful history. Benjamin Harrison, president, Civil War soldiers hid in the attic, and just wonderful history. But I've never had nearly the amount of odd shit happen to me anywhere else that I've had happen at the cabin. Our first toy drive we did it for Henrico Christmas Mother instead of Toys for Tots. Into the night, I decided I was too tired and I'd had a couple of beers. I was just going to throw a sleeping bag down in the loft and throw a pillow against the rail and go to sleep. I had my phone plugged in beside me. I laid my weapon beside me and the speaker plugged in downstairs, and I went to sleep. And I woke up when the music stopped, and I learned a very valuable lesson very quickly. One, if you're going to sleep in a haunted location in a sleeping bag, don't zip that son of a bitch up. You can't get out fast enough. I was the sausage in the casing, and I nearly put additional stuffing in my sleeping bag, if you know what I mean. But when I woke up, there was an old man standing at my feet with his arms across his chest, just looking at me. What the? I'm slowly reaching, trying to find my weapon. And I cut my head away for a moment, spot my weapon, shook out of the holster, and he was gone in that instant.
Oh, wow.
But I've never had that happen in another location. I've never had a full-bodied apparition stand in front of me for a good 3, 4, 5 seconds and just look at me. I've seen them, across the room. I'll see them walk by, or outside the doorway, you'll catch a glimpse of them. But I have never had one literally stand at my, in my reach, basically. He was 6 feet away, and arms across his chest, just staring at me. It was one of the craziest moments. I mean, Ryan will tell you, I've had some crazy stories. Seeing the 5 natives down in Henricus Park, Sean and I sitting in the fire pit, and those don't compare to the waking up to a man standing at my feet. Just
I think having someone standing over you like that is pretty freaky. I mean, it's definitely experience. There's just so many, like I said, there's so many different experiences people have had out there. It really is an amazing place. And this is, wow, an hour and a half. Try.
Oh, wow.
crap.
Wow.
I just looked down myself. I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, well, we will wrap this up. I don't want to because it's very interesting.
That's really interesting.
Always come back for a part 2.
Hey, yeah.
100% on board for that. And, it sounds, for lack of better words, it sounds like a paranormal paradise, really.
Yes, I would so love to be able to go there one day. That'd be great.
Hopefully, listeners or anybody who knows about it takes advantage of the opportunity to not only be able to go experience the things that you've mentioned, but also to be able to contribute to a very worthy cause.
Yes.
Doesn't sound greedy at all. I think what you're doing is incredible. I think it's profound in its own right. It's not something that a lot of people do nowadays. There's not a lot of preservation being done in anywhere really anymore. So it's fantastic to see that be the goal that you guys are driving behind. And hopefully more people will be able to step in and help keep you guys going in that way.
Well,
I appreciate that.
I want to thank you guys for having us on. You guys did a great job for, us being your first guests. It was a lot
Thank
of
you very
fun,
much.
and I will definitely do my best to get you guys, support you guys any way I can, and help get the word out about this awesome, awesome podcast.
I appreciate
Well,
it very much. Thank you.
yes, thank you very much. Greatly appreciated.
And thank you guys very much for spending time with us tonight. And hopefully we'll get to touch base and maybe do a part 2 sometime.
Sounds good to
I'm
me.
always
Thanks,
down
guys.
for that. Thank y'all for having us so
Thank
much.
y'all.
Hey, by the
Thank
way,
you.
folks, I want to throw out a plug. Go to TCO360 or thecabinon360.com. Check us out on Facebook. Give us a like and a share, folks. I would appreciate the hell
Yes.
out of it. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
All right.
You ladies have a blessed week.
All right,
Have a
y'all
good
too.
one.
Thank y'all so much.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.